The world is watching the South China Sea. Tensions there have reached a boiling point. What we are seeing is more than just a regional dispute. It is a major geopolitical flashpoint with global consequences. At the heart of this escalating crisis are three key players. China asserts a sweeping historic claim over nearly the entire sea. The Philippines, a smaller nation, is pushing back to defend its sovereign rights. And the United States, a global superpower, has stepped in to firmly back its longtime ally, the Philippines. This situation is incredibly delicate and carries immense weight for international law. The recent events are not happening in a vacuum. They are the latest chapter in a long and complex story. To understand today's crisis, we must look back at history. The dispute over the South China Sea is not new. It is a complex web of overlapping territorial claims that have been debated for decades, even centuries. Malaysia. Have claims to parts of the sea. However, the most expansive claim comes from China. Beijing uses what is known as the 9-dash line, a U-shaped demarcation that covers about 90% of the South China Sea. This line first appeared on Chinese maps in the 1940s. China argues it represents historical rights to its islands. China argues it represents historical rights to its resources. For many years, these competing claims were largely dormant, and points of diplomatic discussion rather than open conflict. The turning point came in the latter half of the 20th century. The relationship between the United States and the Philippines is long and complicated. Colonialism, shared strategic interests. The two nations have been bound by a mutual defense treaty since 1951. This treaty is the cornerstone of their security relationship. It states that each party recognizes that an armed attack in the Pacific area on either of the parties would be dangerous to its own peace and safety. Each country declares that it would act to meet the common dangers in accordance with its constitutional processes. This foundational document has shaped their interactions for over 70 years. However, the strength and focus of this alliance have fluctuated. The dynamic shifted with the election of Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. in 2022. Marcos steered the country back toward its traditional alliance with the U.S., granting access to several new military sites in the Philippines, signaling a new era of deepened security ties. The current tensions exploded into the global spotlight on August 5, 2025. On that day, a Philippine Coast Guard vessel was escorting a smaller indigenous boat on a routine resupply mission. A smaller indigenous resupply boat. Their destination was the BRP Sierra Madre, a grounded World War II-era ship. This ship serves as a makeshift military outpost on the Second Thomas Shoal. As the Filipino vessels approached the shoal, they were confronted by a much larger Chinese Coast Guard ship. A much larger Chinese Coast Guard ship closed in. The events that followed were captured on video and quickly spread across the world. The footage was stark and alarming. The Chinese vessel, several times the size of the Philippine supply boat, executed aggressive and dangerous maneuvers. It closed in at a high speed, then discharged a powerful water cannon directly at the smaller boat. The force of the blast was significant, endangering the Filipino crew and preventing them from reaching their destination. This was not the first time such an incident had occurred. But the clarity of the video evidence and the brazenness of the act marked a significant escalation, designed to block the Philippines from maintaining its presence on the shoal, making every mission to this remote, rusty ship a high-stakes test of will. In the days following the water cannon incident, the diplomatic response was swift and forceful. The Philippine government immediately lodged a strong protest with Beijing. President Marcos Jr., "We will not give up a single square inch." He convened his national security team. He assured the public the Philippines would continue to assert its rights. The United States was quick to weigh in, offering crucial backing. Antony Blinken spoke with his Philippine counterpart, reaffirming Washington's commitment. On August 7, 2025, the U.S. Department of State condemned China's actions. The statement explicitly referenced the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. It warned an attack on Philippine public vessels would invoke U.S. defense commitments. A clear red line for Beijing. China responded with defiance and counter-accusations. Beijing said Philippine vessels intruded into Chinese waters, turning the South China Sea into a global diplomatic chessboard. The escalating tensions in the South China Sea are casting a long shadow over the regional and global economy. This maritime corridor is a vital artery for global commerce. It's estimated that about 1/3 of all global shipping passes through these lanes. Valued at over $3.4 trillion every year. This includes a massive volume of energy supplies, raw materials, finished goods. The most direct economic impact is felt by the coastal communities that depend on the sea for their livelihood. For generations, Filipino fishermen have plied these waters. Now they face constant harassment and intimidation from Chinese maritime militia and Coast Guard vessels. They report being chased away from traditional fishing grounds, having their equipment damaged, their catches confiscated. This not only robs them of their income but also threatens the food security of their communities, with a very real human and economic cost. Security experts and geopolitical analysts are interpreting these events with a sense of grave concern. Many see the United States' reaffirmation of its defense commitments as a necessary and overdue step. Dr. Gregory Poling, paraphrased, says this clarity removes strategic ambiguity that may have emboldened China. By making the consequences of aggression explicit, the United States is engaging in integrated deterrence. The goal is not to provoke a war, but to prevent one by making the potential costs of conflict unacceptably high for Beijing. What we are witnessing in the South China Sea is a defining moment for the 21st century. The recent confrontation at the Second Thomas Shoal. The firm United States response. This is no longer just a distant conflict over remote islands and reefs. It's a direct test of the international order. A struggle between the rule of law, the rule of force not only in Asia but across the entire globe. The path forward is fraught with peril. The risk of a military miscalculation is real and growing. Yet amidst these dangers there remains a window for de-escalation. Diplomacy, guided by the principles of international law, must be the primary tool. Ultimately, the story of the South China Sea is a story about the future we want to live in. It's a choice that concerns us all, and a steadfast commitment to peace.